Good evening, gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Excess Levy video podcast. Today we have two very special guests. We have Shawn Krajeski and Jason Nichols. They have a very unique working relationship. So Coach Krajeski is a high school athletic director, and Coach Nichols is high school football coach. And Coach Nichols is middle school athletic director, and Mr. Krajeski is the head football coach at the middle school. So at some point in time, you guys, I guess, in reality, are each other's bosses. So that's a pretty unique working relationship. Can you guys talk about that? How's that work for you guys?
From my perspective, it's worked out wonderful so far. We've communicated pretty well with each other, I believe, and we send texts to each other a lot, and you know, we're always in communication. So it's been good on my part.
Same here. Same here.
Gotcha. Well, let's cut to the chase. And the purpose of this podcast is to talk about the excess levy and what it means for a variety of students and programs for Clay County. Your particular areas of expertise would be related to athletics. So we didn't have an excess levy, so therefore we couldn't have the activity buses this past year, and that would be from the 1st of August essentially through Labor Day. So I guess the first question is, did that have an impact on fall sports? Did we have athletes maybe that didn't get to participate until school started, until Labor Day? Can you guys speak to that at all?
Yeah, I can speak to that. I know that we had, and I can't remember the numbers now, but I know that we had a handful, I'm wanting to say probably close to 10, that couldn't come out at the beginning of the season. And then when school started, now that they had buses, they asked if they could join the team. And of course we allowed some of them to join the team. Well, we allowed anybody that wanted to join the team to join it. So that definitely impacted.
Good deal. Did you notice anything at all at middle school level?
Yeah, same thing. You know, numbers not as high as they are at the beginning of the year. And then what happens when they do come in when school starts is that's good, and we let them come in, but then they've got to get their number of practices in, and honestly, they probably can't get those in like it's half the season's over with before they're able to get their required practices in before they can actually play in a game.
Let's talk about another issue that gets brought up, and we see comments on Facebook. So we want to address comments or questions people might have on Facebook. And we had the flood of 2016. That summer was terrible, devastating to a lot of communities. We are fortunate here in Clay that it wasn't as significant here. It was significant, but not as it was further on down the river. But there's talk of, you know, why did we not use FEMA money? Because we had damage to our field, our football field. So the question is, well, why didn't they just take that FEMA money and turf the field? So that's the question. Can you speak to that, Coach Nichols?
Well, we wasn't allowed to turf the field at that time. FEMA, the information we sent to FEMA, you know, to assess the damage, when FEMA came back and told us what we can do and what we had, you can only bring or restore the field to how it was. So we couldn't put turf on the field because there wasn't turf on the field previously. So there was, you know, where it was a grass field, we were able to get the grass on the field. And then, you know, obviously you couldn't put poles, light poles back up that were wood, so they put what was current to date, which was the new poles that we got up for our lights, is what I'm referring to there. But you're not allowed to. You can only get what you had. You couldn't upgrade it. You can just restore it to how it was.
So when we hear talk about turfing the field, and just to be clear, there's a portion of the levy, if it's approved, of approximately $177,000 that's allocated in a section that also mentions, it talks about building a new basketball court at Big Otter Elementary, and they've asked for that. It's an outdoor court, so that would be a concrete court for the outside there. It also talks about playground equipment upgrades at Clay Elementary, and they are needed. And a lot of people don't know, but the smaller pieces on a playground range from $20,000 to $25,000, and for the bigger items that you see that kids play on in the playground, they are upwards of $150,000. So again, when we're thinking about the excess levy and how money's allocated in the same section, and in the same section that has the playground equipment and the court for Big Otter, we have and a funding source to turf Bradley Field, and it would be to turf the football field and also the softball field complex, because it's one. So I know you've looked into it before. I have too. We've been a part of writing grants, to try and turf our facility. So could you recall what the cost would be to turf Bradley Field? I'm talking about the football and the softball parts.
Previously, we had an architect to come and draw that up for us when we were applying for that grant. And I may not be exactly correct, but I believe it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.9 million. Was that correct? Or was it somewhere in that area? 1.9 million, I believe, to turf not only the football facility, but the softball facility as well.
Okay, so how many different organizations utilize Bradley Field or the complex down there currently?
Okay. So obviously we have the high school football team, we have the high school softball team, middle school softball team uses it, high school softball team uses it, the band uses it several days a week to practice before their Friday event that they do here at the football field, which they do a great job. We also have on Saturdays, we have probably 4 football games at least for midget league football.
Mm-hmm.
And we've all been a part of that through coaching or
kids playing.
Whatever, yeah, kids playing.
Sure.
And there's probably 100 football players between all of them, and then cheerleaders from each one. So I'm going to guess probably at least 250 plus kids use Bradley Field with the shape that it's in. And if we were ever lucky enough to get the turf for it, I think you're going to look at other people wanting to use it. I know soccer is starting up, and it's probably going to get stronger here in the future. So just looking at a chance for a lot of people to be able to use it, a lot of people to be able to use it. And when you have turf, a good quality facility, and you can just about play on any day of the week, throw out thunder and lightning, and we're good to go, I believe.
Sure. And I've also seen the high school track down there with their hurdles on the, take them off the asphalt and get them on grass down there. So that would be something else, another team that could utilize that turf.
Right.
Well, while we're talking about this, so let's talk about, on football night, what's the maintenance cost for Bradley Field currently?
Well, I can tell you, as the guy who pretty much takes care of it, we have probably close to $3,500 yearly just on fertilizer, grass seed, lime, so forth and so forth. And then, I typically try to mow it once a week, if not twice a week, a lot of the times, and that takes a couple hours a day every time you use it. So we're talking thousands of dollars over the course of a year.
Sure. What about paint?
Oh.
Paint the lines for Bradley Field for games. Of course, you got middle school football games, like Coach said, Little League and high school games, JV games. You got to paint. So how much is the paint bill?
I believe a case of paint is $76. Does that sound right? I believe it's.
And how many cases to paint a field? It's more than one case, I'm sure.
It takes 3 cases per game just to do the outline. If you want to put numbers, it takes two more cases if you want to add the numbers and the tick marks.
Gotcha.
I'm pretty sure between middle school and high school last year, we ordered right around 35 to 40 cases of paint overall to finish both seasons.
Yeah, and I know, of course, I was president of Little League last year, and we ordered paint as well. I think we only ordered 3 or 4 cases. Thankfully, you guys get the outline. We just have to touch it up.
Sure.
And so the point of, having turf Bradley Field complex in the levy call would allow for, and we've discussed this in other of our video podcasts, when an institution or a county school system, when you apply for a grant, it has a box you check. Can you provide a match? How much can you match? Some grants will ask you for dollar, but it's important that if you apply for a grant that you would have some funding source to do that. But obviously, there's no way that there's enough money in the excess levy to just turf Bradley Field, and that's not the purpose. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is extracurricular buses. So, and this, I'm putting you on the spot here. So, how many road trips do our athletes take in a year?
I mean, well over 100, I'm sure. When you're talking, well, you're probably closer to 150, I would imagine, maybe. Just games back and forth, and then those aren't counting, just you practice and you catch a bus and you go home in the evening. And, we all know that's a lot of how children get back and forth to school with the bus. They don't have anybody to pick them up or whatever the situation might be. And, the thoughts of ever not having that is scary when you think about it, because the number of children who would not get a chance. And, activity buses just aren't for your athletes, obviously. We have ag students who use it, anybody that's staying over here after school itself, they ride the bus. So just not having that would create a lot of issues, I believe, for our children to get back and forth to school.
There's another section or item on the excess levy that would allow funding, if the levy passes, for any citizen in Clay County to get a pass that would be county issued, that would permit them to get into ball games, both middle and high school. And then the high school and the middle school would keep a count for us, a record, and then submit that, and then the county would be able to, with the excess levy funds, reimburse athletic departments. So here's one. How much does it cost to have a high school basketball game? You got officials and a clock keeper and people at the gate. So what's it cost to do that?
For a JV and a varsity basketball game,
Yes.
$540 to run the basketball.
Okay, so athletic department makes its money through admission.
Yes, sir.
And, okay, so you have to take $540 in at the gate just to break even.
Just to break even.
And then and I've had this question, so I want to clear this up. The athletic boosters, then they keep all the proceeds from the concession stand.
Yes.
Okay, so we have about 10 girls basketball games and 10 boys. So you do the math. I mean, it's quite a bit of money. How many of those games do you break even or don't break even in basketball season?
For this year, I believe I lost money in every girls basketball game except for one. Boys did a little bit better. I'm going to say they probably made money in 3 or 4 or 5 games. Probably when you average it out between the two sports, we were probably lucky to break even overall.
Guys, in addition to the levy paying for adults or the citizens of Clay County to get into ball games with the pass, Clay County Bank, who has been a huge supporter of Clay County schools, they have paid for students' admission prices, or the admissions for students, and they're going to continue to do that next year as well, in talking with Board President, Mr. Greg Jency. So we're really grateful to them for that. We're going to wrap it up, and I want to thank both you guys for taking your time after school this evening to stop in and talk about the levy, athletics, and but I also want to say that if you have questions, please don't hesitate to email me or telephone call the board office, and you'll see the email address and the telephone number at the end of this video podcast. Thank you.